So today we are going to discuss about this diaphragm wall construction. So first try to understand what is this diaphragm wall. So the other name of this diaphragm wall, it is also called as slurry trench wall. Trench એટલે ખાડો, એમાં slurry નાખવાની છે, and then after you have to insert your cage reinforcement and you have to prepare wall. That is the simple meaning. Okay. So basically this diaphragm wall construction is a technique of constructing a continuous underground wall from ground level. So our main purpose is to construct an underground wall, but from ground level we have to start our work, and it provides the structural support and water tightness. So if you want to avoid the entry in your main structure from surrounding ground, or if your groundwater table is high, in that case you can provide such kind of wall. Okay, so it will provide support. So retaining wall may be used kar sakte hain. Okay, so basically it's a RCC wall, reinforced cement concrete wall, and which are constructed with the under slurry technique. That's why it is also called as slurry trench wall. So whatever trench, because up to so many depth you have to go. Okay, trench depth में करना पड़ेगा. So to have the proper vertical sides and to avoid the collapse, some slurry has to be added in that trench. That's why it is called as slurry trench wall. So basically it's a narrow trench excavation is generally made, and it is possible only by filling and keeping the wall, whatever that cavity, जो भी आपका खड्डा है उसमें जो cavity है, that is to be filled with bentonite and water mixture during the excavation. तो जब आप excavation करते हैं खड्डे के अंदर आपको bentonite water slurry add करना है to prevent the collapse of vertically excavated surface. So because we are going at too much depth, so here you can see this wall thickness, it may vary from 0.3 to 1.2 meter. Okay, and depth up to 45 meter you can go. Okay, so this is too much depth, and to keep that properly vertical without collapse, certain slurry has to be added, and generally this wall is constructed panel by panel. So panel to panel construction करते हैं, ठीक है. So first panel you are inserting, second panel, third panel, like that. So generally it is done by panel to panel method, and this panel width it may be varying from 2.5 to 7 meters. So पूरा का पूरा panel आपको अंदर डालना है, ठीक है. And other sections of panels are also possible that are like special for special purpose, T section or L section, that are also used. So basically you have to understand that you have some trench, in that you have to fill the slurry, that is bentonite slurry, to keep it safe against the collapse, and then after you have to go for the panel excavation, and then you have to insert a cage reinforcement, then concreting is to be done, and depth up to 45 meter you can go, and width as per your requirement you can choose. But that panel width जो भी है आपका, it is restricted. You cannot go for a continuous wall at a time. Okay, because we have some restriction of the panel. So basically there are many applications of this diaphragm wall construction. कहाँ use कर सकते हैं? So in areas with dense and historic urban infrastructure जहाँ पे है, and if you want some support, in that case you can use this diaphragm wall. Or in the area where rigid earth retention system is retaining wall kind of thing, earth retention system develop करना है, ठीक है. That nearby your river front or anything that you want to retain the earth. So rigid earth retention system if you want to develop, when noise and vibration must be limited. So while construction you don't want this heavy noise or heavy vibration, then also you can go for this. In the area where geology is such that dewatering is not practical. We have learned the different methods of dewatering, but it is an expensive operation. So if geology such that dewatering possible nahi hai, you can go for this diaphragm wall construction. It can be also installed in close proximity to existing structure. Existing structure के पास आपको करना है. And then deep basement if you want to go for, and also in the congested area. So these are some of the areas in which you can use. So the projects, so actual project that have used this kind of wall, that is diaphragm wall, that includes below grade parking, that is नीचे जो हम parking करते हैं below your normal gradient, then deep basement, then subway tunnels. So below that tunnels you are having the diaphragm wall, also for the underpasses, then for deep sewers, shaft जो बनाते हैं, sewers जो होता है उसके shaft के लिए, then cut off wall in डैम में वाटर कंट्रोल करने के लिए कट ऑफ वॉल बनाना पड़ता है. सो इन दैट ऑल्सो यू कैन यूटिलाइज दिस डायफ्राम वॉल. फिर एरिया विच इज अफेक्टेड बाय लैंडस्लाइड, So to retain that earth, also you can go for diaphragm wall construction and earth retention wall for the deep excavation. Deep excavation जहाँ पे करना है वहाँ पे भी आप ये यूज कर सकते हो. ओके, सो हाई कैपेसिटी वर्टिकल फाउंडेशन एलिमेंट आपको लगाना है, रिटेनिंग वॉल फाउंडेशन करना है. सो ऑल आर द प्रोजेक्ट्स दैट हैव जनरली यूज्ड this diaphragm wall construction. So now these are some of the pictures. So in such kind of tunnel, below that you are having diaphragm wall. In dam also, ये जो आपको surface दिख रहा है, below that also you are having the cut-off wall. Okay, so that to control the water flow, बाहर से पानी अंदर ना जाए. Next, basement basement के लिए use कर सकते हैं. Okay, so deep basement if you want to go for, then you can have such kind of wall. Then oil tank if you want to prepare, then retain करने के लिए to the earth, then underground parking. So these are some of the very general applications where you can utilize this diaphragm wall construction. Okay, now if you want to go for the diaphragm wall construction, then certain selection criteria that are there that you have to follow. So when these are the some selection criteria. So first, it is generally useful for the granular soil with the high groundwater level. जहाँ पे groundwater table high है, granular soil है, and especially low permeability layer, it underlies the granular soil. ऊपर granular soil है, नीचे आपका low permeability layer है, ठीक है? So in that case, generally this diaphragm wall can be constructed. Then limited time construction, आपके पास time कम है, so in that case you can go for this. Then install to a considerable depth. So as you know, 45-meter depth, up to that you can go. Easily install in a permanent structure. So you can easily do the permanent structure in that also you can do. It can carry vertical loads. So all the vertical loads that can be taken by that. Then you need some substantial thickness. बड़ी thickness की आपको wall चाहिए. Then it is the economical solution for the large deep basement. So this is the wide application, deep basement in saturated and unstable soil profile. Also for the seepage control, already we have discussed. डैम में पानी अंदर कंट्रोल करने के लिए, that is called the seepage. So that seepage control in the dam. Then no noise or vibration that is desired during construction, and it is not economical for small and shallow basement. So बहुत बड़ा वर्क है, then only it is economical. Otherwise, because it's a continuous RCC wall, and that may not be economical for the small or shallow basement. Now, after knowing where it is applied and which are the basic site selection criteria, we would discuss about the construction process. कैसे construct किया जाता है, ठीक है? So there are two methods always whenever we are dealing with concrete. One is precast. So precast RCC wall, that are ready-made wall that can be inserted in your trench. But in the second, it is cast in situ. Cast in situ means on ground you have to prepare. So in that also there are different methods. Successive panel method, एक panel के बाद दूसरा, दूसरे के बाद तीसरा. So that is successive, एक के बाद एक. Next is alternate panel method. So the trench is done in the alternate manner, and that panels are inserted, and then the in between intermediate section that will be joined together. Then direct circulation. So continuously you are making the borehole continuously, and then after you are inserting the panels. So that is direct circulation method. So basically this trench excavation is performed using the slurry for support, and that slurry, as you know, that it is the bentonite slurry and water, or polymer and water, but widely used is bentonite slurry. Okay, so here you must write down all these steps that are involved in the construction of cast in situ alternate panel method. Okay, so we are discussing cast in situ alternate panel method. So first step, or the first stage, it is the construction of guide walls. So first you have to provide a guide wall. Okay, you have to just guide, because it's a deep excavation. So proper guide wall are to be constructed. Okay, so to maintain the verticality. Next is preparation of supporting slurry. This is very essential. Okay, that slurry that we are using, bentonite slurry, that is to be properly prepared. Third step, excavation for diaphragm wall. So actual excavation is to be carried out. Then after you have to fill it with the slurry and stop and fixing. Basically this stop and fixing means what? You have done the excavation, okay, and at the end, because it's an alternate panel method, So you have to provide certain tubes at the end. Okay, so that is called as stop end, means आपका ये end stop हो गया. So suppose in this is your guide wall. Okay, this is your guide wall. Then after you are having this excavation with the help of excavator. Okay, then after you have to fill it with the bentonite slurry. Okay, and here this is water stop joint. Here it is shown. It is a water stop joint. So whatever bentonite slurry is there, it should not go beyond that. So some tube is to be inserted. Okay, so that is called a stop and fixing. So after excavation, you have to avoid whatever bentonite slurry that should not go beyond this. So at the end, you have to provide such kind of water stop joints. Okay, that is called as the stop and fixing. After that, next process, reinforcement, that cage reinforcement you have to lower in that excavated part. And at last, once reinforcement cage चला गया, आपको concreting operation करना है. So with the tremie grouting, the tremie concreting method, you have to do the concreting work and stop and remover. So you have to remove this top, and because between these two panels, this is success. These two panels, they are first initially constructed. ये दो panel बन गए आपके, but below that, between these two panels, again intermediate panel, that is called as a secondary panel. Panel जो डालते, that are the primary panels, and between two primary panels we have to insert secondary panel. So for that you have to remove this particular water stop joint, जो आपका water stop and fixing जिसको बोलते हैं, that is generally provided with the tubes. So that is to be removed, and that after in between similar way you can insert the you can have the trench, and same way you can do it. Okay, but except stop and fixing, that is the way in which the progress of this diaphragm wall construction goes on. So we will discuss each and every step one by one. Okay, so first, that is guide wall construction. As the name suggests, to guide. So to guide something. Okay, so these guide walls are the two parallel concrete walls along the face of the wall. जहाँ पे आपको कंस्ट्रक्ट करना है, उसके फेस पे आपको initially you have to fix this guide walls. Okay, and it is excavated and constructed, and that thickness may be 250 mm and 2 meter depth RCC guide walls on the each side of the diaphragm wall. That is center line. आपके पास center line है diaphragm wall का. Accordingly, you can construct it. Okay. This guide walls direct the clamshells. This is the excavator or graving equipment to maintain the desired width. जो भी आपकी desired width है, accordingly you can guide that excavated part. Okay. So just to guide how much width is to be maintained by the excavator. So that will be guided by this particular guide wall. And it keeps the vertical alignment and retains the bentonite slurry. So whatever slurry that you are inserting, okay, so that will be retained by this excavation method, but it should remain above ground level also. So that will retain your bentonite slurry. And typically this vertical tolerance 1:200 is permissible. Means अगर 200 meter depth नीचे जाते तो 1 meter का allowance चलता है, but you should maintain verticality properly. So this is just the guide wall, just to guide your excavator to have the proper width and proper verticality. So this is the actual figure, that is, these are the concrete guide wall. So that is used to guide your particular excavator, जो भी excavate करना है आपको. So to excavate that particular for that purpose, this RCC guide walls are to be prepared. So this is RCC guide wall, and this is the actual trench to be excavated, and slurry is to be added in the trench. So these are the way that guide walls can be constructed, just to guide your excavator to have the proper width and total verticality. Next is preparation of supporting slurry. So this is very important part of your diaphragm wall construction, because it's a deep excavation, and for this deep excavation that site should not collapse, और उसका width भी इतना ज़्यादा नहीं है. So generally this bentonite fluid, it is generally circulated continuously with the reverse mud circulation. Means reverse way में करके आपको you have to prepare it proper. Proper mixing is very essential, and generally it is kept this slurry level minimum 1 meter higher than the groundwater table. कहाँ तक आपको ऐड करना है कि जहाँ तक आपका groundwater table से 1 meter higher तक. Okay, and this clean the slurry fluid to achieve the desired limits of density, viscosity, pH. So as per requirement, you have to prepare your bentonite slurry. And you can utilize the flocculant also if the demand to remove the fine silty solid and clay solid from the slurry. So some flocculant materials are also available that can be also used in this slurry. So proper preparation of slurry as per the guideline and as per requirement, you can do it. Okay. Then after the actual process starts, that is of excavation. So excavation of the diaphragm wall and stop and fixing. So in normal soil condition, excavation is generally done by the clamshell. So this is the clamshell. This is the equipment which is used for excavation, which is called as clamshell. So here it is having these two arms, okay, and that is this is the way how it is working, okay. So वो excavate करके इसके अंदर आपका earth भर के उसको बाहर निकाल देता है. So this is the clamshell or grab suspended by cables to a crane. So this is the equipment which is used for the excavation. So this grab can easily cut through soft ground. If soft ground hai, it can easily cut it. But if some boulders are there, then chisel, the chini kind of thing, that can be used to break the rock and can be taken out using grab. So first initially you have to break that rocks, etc. And then after you can take out with the grab. So to protect the collapse of sidewall, as I told you, this bentonite slurry is used to protect the side of wall. So you have to fill this bentonite slurry to protect the trench from collapse. So after this excavation is going on, you have to start adding this bentonite slurry. So bentonite is nothing but it is a specially selected fine clay, and when added to water, it forms a impervious cake-like slurry. So एकदम impervious cake-like slurry बन जाता है, having the large viscosity, and this slurry will produce a great lateral pressure which is sufficient enough to retain the vertical soil. So it will not allow this vertical soil to be आपका excavated part का both the soil, both the sides, it should not allow it to collapse. Okay, so it will retain that whatever side walls are there. So that is why we are adding this bentonite slurry, just to balance the soil pressure to protect the trench from the collapse. That is the main purpose of adding bentonite slurry. So after excavation, you have to start adding this bentonite slurry. So this is the alternate panel method. So this is your clamshell that is used for the excavation. So this is the complete excavated part that is shown. Then again second part, third part. So similarly alternate panels are to be prepared, okay, and bentonite slurry is to be filled. Then after installing the stop and tubes, so as I told you that alternatively you are preparing the excavated part. So constructing the long sections of the wall continuously is not possible because you are having some limitation of the panel size, okay. So that is why the wall is usually constructed in alternative sections, okay, and leaving the intermediate section in between. So here you can see intermediate section रहता है, ठीक है ना, in between these two walls, because we have limited width of the panel और cage reinforcement का limitation होता है, उतना ही हम panel बना सकते हैं, ठीक है. So alternate section we are preparing. So two stop and tubes will be placed at the end of the excavated part. Okay, so here just try to understand. This is stop and tubes. So in plan you can see these are the primary panel. It is shown as primary panel. Okay, so stop and tubes. So whatever is your excavated part, at the end you have to provide this stop and tubes. Okay, so both ways you are providing, and this is the in between excavation that is to be done later on. Then after that stop and tubes that are placed at the end of the excavated trench part before concreting, and withdraw the tubes at the same time of concreting. जब हम concreting start करते हैं, at the same time you have to take out this whatever that end stop tubes that we have added, and in between segment. So this in between segment that is to be also built in a similar way but without end tubes. So at that point there is no need of end tubes in the secondary panel. So this is the secondary panel. Here secondary panel already construction of this is there. So when you are taking out this tube, so it's a semicircular groove kind of thing that is observed. This kind of semicircular groove is observed, and you can have the continuous wall construction using those panels. So you can join the panels together. So first primary panels, then secondary panels. Okay. So this is just how this jointing, etc. So here this water stop joints that are shown here. So this is water stop, water को avoid करने के लिए, so that it should not go in other one. And here this is the primary panel. So already primary panel is filled. Okay, concreting is done, and then after you have to start for the excavation of secondary panel. So this is secondary panel, and whenever you are doing concreting, you have to remove this water stop. So these are some different pictures of this water stop. Okay, so these are also some pictures of this water stop, actual picture, so that you can insert at the end of first excavated part. Okay, then after lowering of cage reinforcement, so this reinforcement cage that you have to lower in the excavated part. So already excavated part in which we have to lower this cage reinforcement, and this cage reinforcement must have a sufficient transverse and diagonal reinforcement. So as per design, you should have a sufficient diagonal as well as the transverse reinforcement, and this is to withstand the lifting and lowering and handling forces. You have to handle proper forces because it is at too much depth. Okay, and good space must be available inside the cage reinforcement, because ultimately you have to fill it with the tremie pipes के साथ आपको pour करना है concrete. So sufficient space should be available between this cage reinforcement. So after installing this cage reinforcement, so here these are some of the actual pictures of how this cage reinforcement can be inserted in the. So here you can just imagine, this is the depth of this cage reinforcement, this is the width. Okay, so as per the depth requirement, you can have this design of cage reinforcement. Okay, so ultimately once the cage reinforcement is done, you have to start with the concreting, and you have to do at the same time that stop ends जो भी हमने water stop लगाए थे, that is to be removed. So this tremie pipes, so it is consisting of this kind of funnel के अंदर हम concreting करते हैं, so that it should maintain proper alignment. So this is the tremie pipe, they are used for placing the concrete to avoid any segregation. एकदम line में गिरेगा वो, ठीक है. As concrete being poured down, it will displace the bentonite slurry, because bentonite slurry तो already अंदर है ही. तो जब हम concreting करेंगे, so जो bentonite slurry है, that will come out. Okay, and we have to collect this bentonite slurry, and which can be collected and which can be reused. So this is the way how the construction of diaphragm wall is done step by step manner. So here this is the complete diaphragm wall after all the sections that are joined together. Okay, so successive panel method. At certain distance you have to go for the excavation, bentonite slurry रखाना है, एंड में आपको water step and लगाने हैं, cage reinforcement insert करना है, tremie pipe से concreting करना है, and then after at the end you may find this kind of wall, and here this shows the guide wall initially. Okay, so this is the complete figure of the diaphragm wall. Okay, now other method which is called as the direct circulation method of diaphragm wall construction. So here borehole is constructed. Okay, and there is a series of overlapping borehole can be constructed. Continuously you have to go on adding this series of overlapping boreholes, and ultimately you can have this cage reinforcement, and then after similar way you can have this tremie pipe through which you can do the concreting. But the thing is that excavation का थोड़ा अलग method है, so it's a direct circulation method. So here in this figure, all the 4 major construction steps that are shown. Okay, first is guide wall construction. Second, that is your particular excavation and slurry that is to be inserted. Then water stop joint at the end, just to avoid the water that is going towards the that secondary panel जहाँ पे हमको install करना है. So these are all primary panels. Okay, then cage reinforcement installation, and at last we are having concreting. So 4 major steps hai. In between step whatever I have discussed, that is the slurry treatment. So because that is a very essential part, because it is to keep that it vertical and without collapse, that sides of the excavated part. So this is your first, second, third step and fourth step, all are given in one figure. Okay, so this way you can have the construction of diaphragm wall, and that is having wide application in the field. Okay, deep basement and in tunnel, and underground parking, and for retaining wall, then for your dam to control water. as a cutoff wall. So with this, I would like to end the presentation. Thank you very much for your patience.